Okay, so what you guys should have done is you should have created the two circles and also use a pen up, pen down. Now, for those of you guys who done that last week, well done. But one person who really impressed me last week was Jack S from 8A. So well done, Jack. Now, the next couple of things I'm going to show you is how we can actually play around with our lines a little bit. So one thing I'm going to do is I want my lines to be a little bit thicker. Okay, so I'm going to use turtle dot width, and I'm going to say I want the width to be 3 pixels. And once I run that, you will see that that is slightly thicker. Okay, there we go. So we can obviously play around with the width as well. What I'm also going to do is I'm also going to change the way I use the color. Now, what I'm going to very quickly explain is every color that we'd have would make use of something called an RGB value. So what we do when we color something, or every image that we have, the image would be broken down to loads of tiny little pixels. For those of you guys who don't know, a pixel is a tiny little dot. All of these dots come together to make a huge image. Now, each of those pixels will have its own color, and those colors are determined by something called an RGB value. So how much red, how much green, and how much blue goes into that one pixel. Now, if the RGB are all zeros, we have 0 red, 0 green, 0 blue, and that will make a black color. If we have 255, so 255 is the number we go up to, 255 red, green, and blue, that would make a white color. And if we have the same numbers for red, green, and blue, it would always be between black and white. It would be gray somewhere along that scale. But when we play around with the numbers a bit more, so if we use, let's just say 255 reds, 0 green, and 0 blue, we would have the reddest of reds. Okay. Now, in some places, what you might have is you might have something called a hex value or a hex code, and that's just the RGB translated. I'm not going to go into the translation yet at the moment, but as you guys can see, I've got this color wheel here. Now, if I go into the middle where we have our white circle, that has 255 red, green, and blue, and that actually makes white. If I, like I mentioned, the reddest of reds, as you can see here, we have 238 red, 56 green, and 35 blue. If I come over here to the blue, I have 75 red, 62 green, 154 blue. So all of these actually make up our colors. Okay, so what we're going to do is, instead of using our actual colors, so instead of saying blue, we can actually use a specific tone of blue. So we're going to get rid of that, and we're going to say red, let's say 55, green, let's say 55 as well, blue, let's say 255. So that should actually be a different tone of blue now. Let's see how it looks. Slightly different. Okay, as you can see, it is slightly lighter. What we'll do is, let's change that to 155. So we have a slightly more greeny blue. Okay, so as you can see, we have a different shade of blue. Okay, so now the next thing I want you guys to do is two things. I do not want to see any more color names in your code. I want to actually see RGB values. Okay, I want to see RGB values for everywhere that you've mentioned a color. I want them to be slightly different. I don't really mind which color it is, but they should be different colors. And you should have also played with the width as well. Okay, once you've done that, I want you guys to come back to the next video and we'll do something else as well.